about is the new deep diver. Again, the theme for Duo this year is kind of going deep. Previously we talked about the 100 DR, and well, let's call it kind of main event. I think it will be for many of the anglers, and also it is for us in many ways. Realis crank G87 28. It's a long name, but it's a long name for the lure which will probably stay in the minds of many of the anglers. So basically this lure was born out of necessity of the anglers to have a truly diving lure which goes to 6 meters. 6 meters was the line which we were many times asked about, which goes down to 6 meters and not only proclaims to go there on the package, but truly go there. So yes, this lure was kind of a challenge for us in many ways as well, because making a lure of this kind of volume, of this kind of depth, requires a lot also on the engineering side. So being kind of new category for us, it has proved to be quite a challenging and something which we actually did enjoy, because we pushed the limits of what deep dive and crankbaits can do in many ways. Of course, you know, when you talk about the world of the deep diving cranks, there are many cranks which proclaim to go down to 6 meters. Probably many of them you own yourselves, but try to test them and see. If you ever had a chance to truly test it with the electronics and see how much they dive, probably many times you would be surprised that those 6 meters or whatever, those 18, 19, 20 feet stays only on the package, and you can still get down to those 6 meters, but only if you use very thin line. And if you use kinds of finesse gear, so to speak. But at the same time, if you use a line which is so thin, many times even if you get the fish you are after, you get a chance that your line will get cut. So what we try to do with the G87, again, what Duo is known for, we aimed for total package. What I mean in this case is we try to keep the balance of the diving angle, a very important thing with the deep divers, because even if you get down to the 6 feet to 20 feet you are after, but if you only stay there for, I don't know, few meters, there is no point, because you stay in the strike zone for a very short time. So the diving angle is essential thing when it comes to deep divers. So we try to make the diving angle of the lure as steep as possible. So as soon as you cast the lure out and you make it dive, it goes to those 6 meters and it stays there. So that's one thing, the diving angle. The second thing I actually just mentioned, the castability. I think nobody questions the castability of the Duo lures. This is what we build our reputation on. And also the new diving crank, the G87, has been tested against all the other lures in the same category, and it has outperformed many of them by a very large ratio. This one again was already mentioned, but staying in the strike zone. Again, we try to optimize the time which the lure stays in the strike zone. So we are looking at the total package. You've got the castability, you've got the diving angle, and you've got the time in the strike zone. As we talk about the deep divers, they do possess quite lots of challenges when it comes to engineering. And that's actually one reason why Mr.Adachi made it his pet project for this year. So the first, okay, let's talk about the basics. When you talk about the deep diver, you want it to fly, to get the distance. But at the same time, you want it to get to the strike zone, to the diving depth as soon as possible. But these are basically two opposing aspects of the deep divers. So, basically to make the lure dive is very easy. You just make the lip heavy. To make the lure cast is again very easy. Just make it heavy in the back. But then again, if you make the lure heavy in the back, it doesn't dive as easily. And if you put too much of the weight on the lip, the castability is very difficult to attain. So the challenge was how to unite, unite these two things and get the best out of this lure. So we actually came with quite a few, let's call it a small, very tiny, I don't want to overuse the word revolution, but let's call it a tiny revolution when it comes to lure engineering. And I do think that we pushed the boundaries of the lure engineering at least a little bit, because I think that's what's supposed to be done. You don't want to stay at the same point. So basically, when we're talking about the diving depth, okay, when we look at the lure, you can see that basically, as all the deep divers, it's got a long bill, but you can see that the tiny little piece of ABS from under the lip is actually taken out. And the reason for that is very simple. You want to make the lip, you want to make it light, so the castability is attained. But so this is how we tackled one of the challenges. Now comes the castability, the diving angle, my apologies, the diving angle. So you still want to preserve the weight on the front side of the lure to get the diving depth. So the way how we did that is that we basically put the weight of the lure. The G87 actually has a magnet assisted weight system, but it's unlike anything you have seen in other lures. Basically, the weight system, the weight of the lure is outside of the body. If you look at the front center of the lip, you can see that the part of it, you can actually see the weight of the lure, and you can see that it's outside of the body, so to speak. And the reason why this was done is because we wanted to keep the weight on the front side of the body, so the diving angle as well as the castability is preserved. We were talking about the diving angle. I think most of the anglers do understand how important it is, but just to stress it, basically it allows you to stay in the strike zone longer. So when talking about snakehead, it often stays in the bush, as barramundi, it often stays in the bush, as I understand, and this kind of diving angle and the strike zone, preservation of the strike zone, does allow you to get in front of the fish and stay in front of the fish long enough to be able to attract it.